Let's kick things off in a Big Ten SEC showdown from Madison, Wisconsin. It's the Alabama Crimson Tide traveling to Wisconsin. This game will be noon Eastern time on Fox. Alabama is north of a 2-touchdown favorite at the moment. They are 15-1 in road opening games since 2008. So, questions of this matchup. Number one, can Wisconsin take advantage of a young secondary? And if you look really since Luke Fickell took over and Phil Longo, his offensive coordinator, took over at Wisconsin, it's been a little bit of a work in progress. It has not been some dynamic dynamo with the amount of points scored. They averaged 24 points a game last year, actually 23 and a half, but I was rounding up. And the passing yardage really hasn't been what we've kind of come to expect. They've averaged, since the beginning of the Fickell era, about 6 yards an attempt in the passing game. But they have been able to run the ball with some consistency, which is what Wisconsin's always done. Here's what they got to do, though, against Alabama. If you watched last weekend, Alabama against USF, there were a couple opportunities early in the game in which USF had receivers that were open and the throws were missed. Wisconsin might be able to take advantage of some guys that are still playing early in their careers, several freshmen that factor into the rotation. Wisconsin has not been a group that has manufactured a ton of big plays this year. They had just 3 big plays created in their week 1 win. One of those big plays, by the way, was just 13 yards. So it's not like they've been, those big plays are 50-yarders, all right? Clearly, they made it a priority in week 2, and they finished with 7 big plays, 4 of which came through the air. And of those 7, 6 of those 7 went for 20 or more yards. I mean, they attempted 2 flea flickers in the game. So clearly, creating big plays has been a huge priority from week 1 to week 2. Will it carry over here into week 3 against the Alabama Crimson Tide? Question number 2, can Wisconsin create some negative plays and stop the run? Last week, coming off a tough performance against Western Michigan, where they had just 1 TFL, Wisconsin's front 7 started to figure things out a little bit in week 2. They had already in the first quarter surpassed the amount of negative plays created, and they would finish the night with 6 tackles for loss and 3 sacks. But, it wasn't a great performance considering how much Wisconsin actually gave up on the ground. South Dakota was the opponent last week, and they gashed them. 139 yards, 22 carries. This is between both running backs and wide receivers. They had some runs that I thought were pretty considerable, too. They had 5 runs that went for 13 or more yards, including that 35-yard touchdown on the end around to open up the second half, and made the game somewhat competitive there at the beginning of the second half. Now, if you look at Alabama, the offensive line struggled against South Florida. Part of that was due to injuries and just, I guess for lack of a better word, incompetence. They pressured Jalen Milroe 11 times. They got pressure on 38% of his dropbacks, and the recorded sacks of 18, 10, and -8 yards, okay? So USF got after Alabama, and I think Bama staying on schedule will be of the utmost importance. But can Wisconsin do it? Because they have not been the group that has done so consistently in the first 2 weeks of the season. Question number 3, can Alabama eliminate the critical errors and mistakes? There were way too many penalties against South Florida, too many turnovers, just mistakes just kind of all over the field. Fumbled snap. I mean, it's just Alabama was flagged for 120 yards of penalties. 13 different flags were thrown. 2 of Alabama's touchdowns were actually wiped out, including a 73-yard run by Milroe. So can Alabama be just a little bit more disciplined? This was an issue last year when they went on the road, and it's kind of been a little bit troubling to see that carry over into the new regime. Maybe they'll be able to fix things. Maybe that was just a bad performance, and things will be cleaned up quite a bit here in week number 3. Question number 4, can Alabama be a little more efficient and a little less explosive? Last week, awesome play in the final 6-7 minutes of the game. All right, not going to take anything away from the touchdown pass to Ryan Williams or Jam Miller's long touchdown run or Justice Haynes' touchdown run to kind of cap things off. But if you look at how things are going right now for Alabama, they look a little bit like the group that they looked like last October, where it's almost all about the big play. Yes, they're averaging 11 yards per attempt through the air. But they are 50th nationally in the amount of first downs created. You know what that's telling me? They're pushing the ball downfield and they're manufacturing big plays, but they don't have consistent, steady, and efficient drives. I think it's time for them to be more efficient. And in order to do that, they got to be better along the front, along the offensive line. Hopefully things will settle down. I mean, Tyler Booker, their all SEC, All-American guard, was out at tackle. Caden Proctor's been out with the shoulder injury. You got a reserve guard in there and Geno Vandemark. So you got Elijah Pritchett, who's been banged up. He's probably going to be the left tackle moving forward. I mean, so there have been challenges to overcome. But sometimes I feel like Alabama gets, and Jalen Milroe and the offense in general gets very focused on manufacturing big plays, and they focus a little less on taking the 4, 5, 6, 7 yard completion or the 4, 5, 6, 7 yard run. I think efficiency is the key moving forward, and hopefully they can begin to manufacture that against Wisconsin. A couple trends in the game. Alabama's 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 games against Big Ten teams. Wisconsin, however, 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 games as a double-digit underdog. And the under is 7-2 in Wisconsin home games since the start of last season. I'm taking Alabama. I'm taking them comfortably. As of this moment, Alabama's vision-based defense, I think, could give fits to Tyler Van Dyke, a guy that has thrown interceptions in the past. And I think he might throw 1 or 2 this weekend. But if he plays great, it could be interesting. And if Bama continues to make big mistakes on the road, could be interesting there as well. But I think Bama wins comfortably in Madison, Wisconsin.